this is Tim. Welcome to Tim Can Cook. Today we're going to make potato dinner rolls. Now these are really special. I learned to make these when I had the restaurant in Idaho back in the 70s. Idaho, of course, is known for potatoes, and so we ate potatoes a lot, many different ways. These use up leftover mashed potatoes. And whenever I make mashed potatoes now, I make an extra cup because I use it in this recipe. So to start with, we're going to put 1 1/4 cups of warm water in our bowl and add 1 package or 2 1/4 cups of fast-acting yeast. Now we do that to bloom the yeast. We'll add a little bit of sugar. There's 1/3 cup going in the recipe. We can put it all in now, it's fine. We want the yeast, we want to make sure the yeast is alive. So we need to bloom the yeast. The process doesn't take long with fast-acting or instant yeast, but if you skip it and your yeast is dead, then you're not going to get any decent rise out of your bread. So it's worth spending a few minutes waiting on the yeast until it proofs. So we're going to give it 10 minutes and then we'll be back with the rest of the recipe. So our yeast has fully bloomed, and now we can get back to adding the rest of the ingredients. So we'll put in 1/4 cup of milk, 2 eggs, and we'll go ahead and let the mixer break those up, mix those together. Now while it's doing that, we'll go ahead and add 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. Now we didn't put the salt in before the yeast bloomed because the salt can kill the yeast. So we have 4 1/4 cups of flour going in. We'll go ahead and put most of that in now. And then we're going to add 1 cup of very smooth mashed potatoes. Now those of you who've watched the earlier shows know that I like my mashed potatoes a little bit on the lumpy side. We'll go ahead and add all this flour. We're going to need some more anyway. I like my mashed potatoes on the lumpy side. For this recipe they have to be silky smooth, so I've run them through the ricer. And that'll take out all the lumps. We can go ahead and add those in now. It looked like it was a lot more than 1 cup because it just came through the ricer. So we'll start this guy up. And then we'll add in our 6 tablespoons of softened butter. And we will let this combine. So we're going to let this run for maybe 5 minutes, 5, 7, 8 minutes. We'll scrape down the sides, let it form a nice dough ball, and then we'll be back to form the dough. Okay, while we are kneading the dough, whether you knead it by hand or you knead it in the mixer, you have to add more flour. You always have to add more flour. You don't know how much moisture is in the potatoes, how big the eggs are, how much moisture is already in the flour. So that's very normal. In this case, I had to add over 1 cup of additional flour to get to the consistency we were looking for. Now, what that means is it pulls away from the sides of the bowl. And it's okay if it sticks a little bit to the bottom, but it shouldn't stick to your fingers either. So it's not an exact science to get it to exactly where you need it. Now we're gonna pull this dough out of here with a scraper. Out of the bowl. When we made this in a restaurant, we made it with 25-pound bags of flour, and it was always fun because sometimes you had to add significantly more flour than just the 25 pounds to get it where you wanted it. Okay, so we're out here on an unfloured board, which is usually fine. But all we're trying to do now is to just form this into a nice dough ball. Okay? Because for the next step, see, it's still a little sticky. Still a little sticky. It shouldn't be sticking to your hands at this point. Normally I don't have to flour this silicone, but here we will. Okay, so all we're going to do now is we're just going to turn it under, make a nice little tight skinned dough ball, and then we're going to go right back into our pan. Now we're going to squirt a little bit of oil in the pan, in the bowl. Drop our dough in upside down, flip it over. Now we're simply going to cover it. In our case, we're going to use cling film, but you can cover it with a cloth. If you cover it with a cloth, you want to make sure you dampen the cloth, because the cloth will pull moisture out of your dough. We're going to cover it with cling film so that we can see how it's rising later. Normally I would just use a dampened cloth, but it should take about 90 minutes to double in size, and then we'll go back and actually make our rolls. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, you can see how well the dough has risen. It's been 90 minutes, it's more than doubled in size. So now we'll get rid of this plastic. We'll turn the dough out onto the board. Beautiful dough. All right, so we'll knock all the air out of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide it into 15 even pieces. Easier said than done. So we'll just take a pass at it here. These are too big, I can tell already. Why are we doing 15? We're doing 15 because that's what's going to fit in the pan in a nice even row. I know. We should put this on a scale, see what the dough weighed, and weigh out the individual portions. But we're not going to do that. Okay, so what we do now is we form the individual rolls. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten the dough. That just kind of takes the rest of the bumps out. Turn it over. Then with my hand cuffed, little ball, I'm pushing down quite hard. Now if you don't have a silicone mat, you can simply do that on an unfloured surface. So push it down, kind of form it into a rough square, turn it over, and roll it. Now I'm pushing down here when I'm rolling this. Pushing down quite hard. And I'm going to line these up in my pan. You can do this in a glass pan as well. This pan has parchment paper in the bottom, which just helps keep it from sticking. And then it's been greased. So do a greased pan. You can do it without the parchment paper if you like. And you see my hand is cuffed, a little ball shape. I get these beautiful ball shaped dinner rolls out of this. Okay, I'll continue and do the rest of these, and we'll come back in just a minute. Okay, we're down to our last one. So here we have our beautiful dinner rolls, not all the same size, but of course that's okay. We'll cover these over with plastic wrap again, let them rise for about an hour, and then they'll go into a 350-degree oven, 20-25 minutes until they're 200 degrees internal and nice golden brown. We'll be back in just a bit. So here are our beautiful rolls right out of the oven. They look absolutely gorgeous. They are 200 degrees inside. They were in for 26 minutes. We'll let them cool here in the pan on the rack for a little bit, and then we'll dump them out and let them cool outside the pan. But other than that, all we have to do is eat them. These really are the softest, most wonderful dinner rolls you'll ever have. I hope you've enjoyed this little episode of Tim Can Cook. If so, please like and subscribe. Help me out, follow the channel, share me with your friends. We'll be back again next time on Tim Can Cook.